So, Kyza, you are a man of many, many talents. I'm really excited for this chat. I've been hanging out for this. You're in a band, Grand Casual. You do artist booking for a venue in Esperance, and you also kind of run some pretty big shows down that way as well. But where I kind of wanted to start with you, how have you kind of faced being so remote?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And Esperance being so isolated, we've gone through periods of having a solid music scene and periods where it sort of drops away for whatever reason. So yeah, my business turns 10 on November 1st. And
Congrats.
yeah, absolutely stoked. Thanks so much, mate. So I guess my goals to begin with for the business were to create a platform for local musicians to perform, was to provide events that were positive for social fabric or people's mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
To allow those points of connection. That was a big driving force for me. And I knew that if I put a lot of work into creating this community, then that would also positively benefit any creative outlets I may have with being a solo artist or with my
Yep.
band as well. And I knew that being isolated, as you've touched on, we needed to develop that community locally because, our closest towns are Kalgoorlie and Albany, which is 400
Yeah.
kilometres away the way. So if we wanted to, if musicians based in Esperance wanted to play regularly, particularly in the contemporary original space, I needed to put that work in to develop an audience and to develop venues and events where people could perform.
Yeah. So where did you start with that? Where did like you go, I've got this idea, I've got this passion, I want to create this. Where's this like what was the first step in kind of getting that started 10 years ago?
For sure. So initially, my realization was that there are a lot of particularly solo musicians to begin with. I recognized that there was a lot of solo musicians based in Esperance that were tinkering away, and they weren't performing because of three key reasons. One of them being that primarily venues want 3 45-minute sets from an artist.
Yep.
Secondly, that a lot of people that are amateur or just sort of developing their talent won't own the sound systems required to put on a live show at a venue. And thirdly, musicians are generally a lot of us are very unorganized. I knew that if I put on acoustic sessions, if I approached the venues myself, delivered an acoustic session, which I touched base with three artists, local artists, and said, look, all you guys need to do is rock up, play for 45 minutes. You get $100 fee, plus
Yep.
you'll get dinner and drinks. All the work's done for you. You've got a goal to work towards. You've got a performance goal to work towards.
Yep.
And as soon as you give people a performance goal to work towards, then that will inspire them to be practicing more at home.
100%.
And being paid is that's something that people that are just developing their craft are not really expecting in that moment. So that was really the starting point. And
Yep.
I ran what I called acoustic sessions up to volume number 20, which I've still got still got all the posters in my room.
Wow.
Another thing that I probably should touch on, and something that I always talk about and that really inspires me, is for regional towns, sport is such a prominent part
Ah,
of
yeah.
communities. That development of community and social cohesion is very focused on sporting. Now, people that are into music and the arts in small regional towns can feel extremely disconnected.
Hmm.
They don't have those places to meet up, collaborate, whether they are whether they're a musician themselves, they may not have those space. If they're just someone that wants to be in the audience for those shows, they
Yeah.
need those events to be happening. So I always thought about my experience with sports growing up. I was never a sportsman, but from an early age, we were offered workshops. We were offered multiple different platforms to play sports,
Yeah. Wow.
opportunities to go away and play in talent development things
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
week or all this sort of jazz, right? And what's the final conclusion for someone that follows a sporting line that is so heavily pushed in regional towns is that they probably end up playing football
Yeah.
in their local town. But I realized that we need that structure in place for music as well. We need those stepping stones. We need those programs that will allow people to develop and follow that passion, right?
Mm.
And so there's different aspects of that. But for me, the key stepping stones have been open mics, absolutely essential.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely essential. Workshops so that people can fine tune different elements of the craft, whether it's songwriting, whether it's live sound, whether it's recording, whatever parts it may be. And then easy access paid gig opportunities.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many people so open mics are a big part of my program and have been from the start.
Yeah.
So now I run about 10 open mics a year at the Cannery Arts Centre.
Yeah, cool.
Free entry, and I source sponsorship and grant funding to run those. So they're amazing nights, and we've cultivated a really cool, really cool community around those as well. So the amount of artists that have come to an open mic, performed at the open mic, every now and then I'll get someone that rocks up and they're ready to go. And I'll be like, hey, dude, do you want to do a 30-minute slot at the Lucky Bay Brewing on this multiple act lineup that I'm putting together? You'll get, depending on whether they play 20 or 45 minutes, so we'll get a $50 or $100 fee plus dinner and drinks. All you got to do is rock up with your guitar. Let's do it. Let's get this ball rolling.
Totally.
And I've now got crew that have done that. I've now got multiple people that are playing, that have followed that pathway even further, and they're recording their own music. They're releasing their own music. They are performing in Perth and outside of Esperance, which is extremely rewarding for me.
So you must see like the open mic really just being like a catalyst of confidence, right? You're taking someone into like such a safe live music situation. And I guess for you to kind of see that development, to then people go to paid gigs, to then actually following it even further to kind of like recording and releasing music. I can see for you that would be a very rewarding experience.
Yeah, there's probably no element of my work that is more rewarding than seeing people follow those pathways, especially when they're like the people that have come to an open mic are then coming to a recording workshop and then they're recording their own demos. So you get that other aspect of it as well. But because I'm running that open mic, I can be like, oh, you know, like give them some feedback cards to their vocals or their guitar playing or whatever. And multiple examples of people that I've, in a way, through the open mics, I've helped to coach them. And after maybe doing 2 or 3 or 4 open mics consecutive, then bang, they're doing a paid show.
Yeah.
It just opens up all this stuff. And for me, and living in Esperance in a small regional community and how that has helped us develop community, you know, these guys that have come through the open mics and workshops and then gone on to do paid shows, they're also the people that volunteer at the bigger events that I do, you know, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Organic swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, I found it really interesting, your comments about almost using the sporting analogy as like a pathway for developing a community, or you know, in art, all the training and the workshops and the development. And I've never kind of thought of that as a parallel path. Like if you provide the same sort of format to support someone, like of course you can build like a similar sort of community. I'd like to segue across to your music. Now you're in a band, Grand Casual. How do you kind of step out from that and be like, all right, let's start a band, let's do recording and let's go on tour, and doing that so remote?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting in the start. So we have been playing together for probably 8 years now, I guess, Grand Casual. And we were, so there's only 3 of us in the band. Initially, that is a very important element of what we do, because to be able to tour when we're so isolated, to be able to put 3 people in a car and go, that is something that we consciously did. You know, we were like, you know, if we have 6 people in the band, this is a totally different equation from
100%
accommodation perspective. So having 3 of us, the structure of our band is unique in that. So I'm just vocals. We have a lead guitarist, Matt Cooper, And our drummer, who Joe Franzone, which a lot of people probably have heard of him as well, he plays a bass station synthesizer. So he
Right.
plays bass one-handed and drums one-handed.
Of
So
course. Logical.
he's an absolute freak. And that came about. So in the early days, we tried with the bass player multiple times, and we went and saw a guy. We saw an act called Swamp Thing, which had a drummer in it called Michael Barker, who is one of the most amazing drummers, one of the most amazing people I've interacted with in the live music industry, to be completely honest. He played for a lot of years with John Butler and the John Butler Trio.
Yeah, wow.
Phenomenal drummer. And so he had that same setup. He played one-handed and he played the bass synthesizer in his duo. Anyway, so that has allowed, having that setup and that stage format has made it a lot easier for us to tour regionally and outside of Esperance. We've also been very realistically, our sound has been in a way sculpted to a degree that would be very accessible in multiple different markets.
Yeah.
We occasionally we have stripped back our setup so that Joe is just playing the bass synthesizer, a stomp box, a snare, and a hi-hat. We've played
Right.
the style of our music runs from, I guess, quite some quite mellow songs right up to punk rock and roll. And these are things that we've done proactively so that we can fit into multiple different niches within the regional market, and so, yeah, I knew as I started my business, Kyza Presents, I had the understanding that the more work I did within the local community, the more the local community would also support any original contemporary endeavor that I did with my band.
Yeah.
And one thing that I will quickly mention there is that, like, Matt Cooper on guitar he's been playing electric guitar since he was 5. Right. Joe's been playing drums since he was 5. I had sang in stuff in primary school for different end of year plays, and that has always been a primary passion for the three of us, our individual things. Gotcha. So there's no denying, and we've all played in multiple bands before. So certainly I was fortunate in finding the most talented two musicians that I could possibly have in a small town. And the fact that we've kept it to 3 people has made the logistics and stuff of running that band forward. Yeah, outside of that, we record, recently we've recorded our demos in Esperance, with Matt has learnt that skill. So he's really competent with Cubase, I'm sure he uses. So our most recent recordings, he recorded all the demos down here. I've got a great rehearsal space set up that we operate out of. And once we've recorded the demos, for all of our material up to this point, we've recorded with Andy Lawson at the Bayside studio in Perth. To get the recordings to the level that we want for ourselves, we've got to leave Esperance because we just don't, there are studios here, but we want to make sure we're looking good for radio play and everything else. So that's what we do. Another big goal and driving thing for me with Grand Casual, and this ties back, this sort of shows the positive impact that Grand Casual as a band has had on the local music scene. So growing up, when we sort of started Grand Casual, I was like, I want to play out of Esperance, but I didn't know anyone from Esperance that had done that.
Yeah, right.
How do we find these pathways? How do we develop that? And so the trajectory of Grand Casual has seen us become a tight band and then play heaps and heaps outside of Esperance. And so in doing that, for my business and for the band, we've carved this pathway for other Esperance acts to go, that looks doable. Like, these guys are doing it. And if anyone has queries, they just hit me up and I'm like, this is all you need to do. It's not hard.
Yeah. So a couple of things here, like, just for some context as well. So, like, Esperance to Perth is almost as far as Adelaide to Melbourne. Right? I'll just kind of put that out there. Like, that's a serious drive. So you're kind of doing that to get access to, like, quality studios. And really, I mean, you're right. Albany and Kalgoorlie, they're only 4 or 5 hours away. But even then, they're towns that are not. I mean, that they are bigger than Esperance, but not significantly. So you've got to do some serious road trips, and um, you're quite. I feel like you must be quite lucky in that you found some really elite musicians from Esperance. I'd love your insight as to like, what if you're starting out? You can't just start with the town's best drummer.
Inevitably, in smaller regional towns, just because of the population, you're going to struggle to find a lot of people will struggle to find the band members that are required to put together a project that they really want.
Yeah.
All you can do is hope that there is really solid open mics and those sort of things in place, so that you have access to discovering those networks, and hopefully you can form and find the people to play with out of that, being able to match up with the musicians that are going to be able to meet your drive. Say you're the songwriter, hypothetically, say you're the songwriter and you're like, oh, I really want a drummer, I really want a bass player, what have you. Undeniably a massive challenge to find the people.
I personally found there was a real mental barrier to getting out of your hometown, to going on tour. Like, it was such this scary prospect, to go to another town. I felt like you're like, look, nobody there knows us. What was your pitch when Grand Casual first kind of wanted to get out of Esperance? Like, how did you approach that?
Really, really good question. So I guess there's so much to be said to spending the time playing shows in your own town to the point where you feel really confident that you are going to be well received. So that's like putting in that rehearsal time, making sure that you're super, super tight and that you're confident in the act that you're going to take into a different region.
Yeah.
Obviously, in your own town, you're going to have a lot of support from your friends and your family and all that sort of stuff. People are going to be frothing it. But if you have put in the time and have a killer set, then you're going to feel more confident in putting yourself into different markets. Now, changing my hat, I guess, for myself and moving into someone that is booking acts, and when I'm seeing people come to me and they're unknown in that town. So they are an unknown commodity in Esperance. So it's like myself as a venue manager or a entertainment manager, what am I looking for? Which is something that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I guess as a band, before you start to look into the other markets, I think obviously in this day and age, having your social media and all that presence looking schmicko is extremely important. So probably the key things that I look at is I look at people's Facebook pages still, and I'm sure that anyone that's booking shows does. Like, I'm 39, and a lot of the people that are doing that are probably between 30 and 50.
Yeah.
So Facebook, Instagram, and having a website, I find is really important. Now, what you're trying to do, I have a minor in marketing from ECU as well. So
Yeah. Wow.
I guess the big thing with music and pitching to someone like myself is like, you've got to try and prove, you've got to show your credibility. You've got to prove that you're going to be a good act to have. But it's live music is intangible, right? So we've got to try and create a representation of what our live act is going to be to get a booking agent to book us.
Yes.
So how do we do that? Well, it's through having really positive social media stuff, but websites also are extremely important. And you've obviously got Bandcamp and stuff. I've never used Bandcamp actually. But we just have a website that we run directly through Bandzoogle, which Bandzoogle is like a online platform, website development platform that's focused specifically at the live music industry. Really easy.
Wow.
Really love it. I think our full professional membership or subscription is $300 per year. So if you're someone that is driven to be playing a lot, it is definitely worth it. But so if someone has a website like that and I access it as a booking agent, I'm straight away looking for live videos, like live performance videos.
Yep.
And the higher quality they are, the better, because that is the way that I can see, oh, holy shit, these guys
Proof in the pudding right there.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's right. You're taking something like a live performance that is you can't really explain what your live performance is like over the phone. But if
No.
you go, I've got that clip there, or it's uploaded on YouTube and you send a link through, well, sweet. Yeah, I can see that they're tight. I can see they're sick. I know the style of music. I can sink my promotional teeth into this content, and that's going to help me sell it to get people to that show. Yeah, so I think primarily confidence in yourself, confidence in your act. Make sure you're tight. Don't go out, you know, work towards not going out undercooked.
Yes.
Pushing into new markets, make sure that you go into a new market and people are like, holy shit, we've got to have these guys back.
Yeah.
And then besides that, from the perspective of a band like touching base with a booking agent cold, that have never heard of them before, it's just all about having that positive social media presence, positive website, obviously recordings and stuff on Spotify, even if they're even some demo, like if you're not yet to the point where you're releasing stuff on Spotify, then certainly demos are very, very good as well. Just decent recordings.
Yeah. And it's all kind of, I guess, reinforcing that same kind of message, that same brand, so that you as the venue kind of know, all right, are they going to drive people away, or are people going to hang around for this? Is probably what a lot of that comes down to. Now, tied in with that, like, so you've done some great cracking festivals in the Southwest, like Nana, I think Blues at Bridgetown. You guys have won a number of awards as well. How have you found, has that made a difference to how you pitch? Has it made a difference to how you're received, either by the community locally, community abroad, or venues or festivals?
Undeniably, having won so we were nominated for WAM Best Regional Act 5 years consecutive, and we won it the last 2 years. So that's crazy. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that when we send, we just booked the Northwest tour that we did in July, and I'm sending through just an email. So when I'm booking Grand Casual, so say I'll run through a booking. We played at Ballara Station for the first time, so they wouldn't have known us previous.
Yeah.
My email is very simple and concise. Hi, we're Grand Casual. We are an all-original act based out of Esperance, Western Australia. We're putting through this tour. If I already have some other venues already booked, I'll list those venues, because obviously if I'm locked in for Whalebone Brewery, then the venues in the area will be like, oh, Whalebone's having them, so they're obviously decent.
Totally.
But to extend that credibility, as soon as I write in there that we have been nominated for the Best Regional Act 5 years consecutive and won it twice, essentially that is probably going to get us any gig that we want, right? But so that is... that really does say quite a bit for the WAM awards and stuff like that. They certainly help you to build that credibility and that profile, and makes it a lot easier booking shows. And then, throw in there, obviously, after I've written that little bit, a lot of the time I'll talk briefly, like maybe one sentence about the style of music that we're playing. And then I will talk very briefly about the support slots that we've done, which is a weird thing, because we've supported like Carnival and the Psychedelic Porn River Band and all this sort of stuff. So people are like, oh, what does that mean that their sound's going to be like? Do we want them to play at Ballara Station?
Yeah.
But for us, it's just so much about remaining flexible and playing all the shows that we possibly can, because at the end of the day, Grand Casual we're a live band. We don't do it we're under no illusions that we're going to be earning 300 grand anytime year and quitting all the rest of our jobs. It is all about playing live for us. We just love the experience of getting on stage and performing our original music to people. So in a nutshell, having played those festivals, having won those awards, having done those supports, having released, having the good bank of music on Spotify and stuff that we have, it makes it so much easier. And that is the work of 7 or 8 years, of course. And so any band that works as hard as we have for 7 or 8 years will find themselves in that position, even if you don't win the awards, your body of work will speak for itself. And the shows and things that you've done will speak for themselves, and it will make it a lot easier to book gigs at venues that you haven't played before.
And I mean, look, even just getting to perform at Nanup and Blues to Bridgetown, like the volume of applicants those guys get through to be able to even get onto that, being part of those sorts of events in itself is pretty phenomenal. And then you've actually started I'm going to call them festival events down in Esperance as well. Like and you've had some really high quality artists that you've brought down, and that must be a mission in itself to convince artists to come all that way. Tell us about that, like some of the events you're running out of Esperance.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just flat out now working on probably the primary event that I've been working on for quite a while, which is called Barmy Nights Festival.
Yeah.
And so that falls this year. The main event falls on the 23rd of November at the Cannery Arts Centre. So that's another big part of my work is my work at the Cannery Arts Centre Esperance, which is an absolutely stunning space. I've been involved there for about 8 years. I was on the committee for quite a few years. And from that space, we run, ticketed shows, we run the workshops, and we run the open mics. It's just a beautiful place for that. So Barmy Nights, that kicked off in 2018. And the first year we set the goal of, we sold 180 tickets for that. And then last year we sold 500 tickets, and which is great. And that had been a very steady and strategic build over those years to get it to a point where we're selling 500 tickets. A lot has changed in that time, and it has all been extremely strategic as far as how I've developed that festival. I always saw that as the one that would be the show that over many, because all these great festivals, Blues at Bridgetown and Nanup Music Festival, they are built organically. You know, they take time. Some of the good things like that, they take time. They can't be just, you know, you see a new big festival jump up and explode onto the scene, and people, oh yeah, let's sell 10,000 tickets into a regional community. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. You know, you got to build your brand, build your credibility, build your audience base. All those parts are so important. So Barmy Nights started in 2018, and my focus for that was always to have I wanted it to be a female-centric focused lineup.
Okay.
It's not heavily discussed. It is, but that's what it's been from the start to the finish, and it's what it is now. And Barmy Nights has expanded exceptionally. So it started off as a live music event, and now it is truly a live music and an arts event.
Yeah,
so
wow.
we have this year we've got seven acts on the lineup, and that is one major part of the festival, of course. But then we also have the Cannery Arts Centre main gallery open with the Esperance Biennial Art Awards for people to check out.
Wow.
We've got our pottery studio, which is, you know, we have a very high membership for the pottery studio. So they are open for people to check out, and they'll be working on the wheels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They'll have a small stall selling pottery stuff. I've got another space that is set up this year for one of our local artists, Rani Funka, she's doing like small portraiture and stuff. So people will go in there. I think there's going to be a small cost associated, and she'll do like a portrait of you and your partner or whatever to take home.
It's incredible how well you've built that. How did you go? You're like, hey, I'm this guy. I want to put on this event 8 hours from you. Can you come down and be part of it? Like, how did you get the foot in the door? How did you make that first couple of years a success?
That is a good question. I guess before I started Barmy Nights, I had been working within the industry for a few years.
Right.
So I had those networks, and I guess I had that credibility. Of course, when we first started, the lineups were, you know, maybe 2 out of town acts or 1 out of town act and multiple locals.
Yep.
So that was part of the programming, which reflects that, you know, the tyranny of distance. I think maybe the second or the third one. Yeah, so the first few shows for Barmy Nights mainly were solo acts. And I remember I had one where I had Jamila. She came down and played solo, which was fantastic. And I had Fieldsy. I don't know if you know of Fieldsy.
Yeah, I know Fieldsy. Yeah.
Fantastic. She was solo. And maybe that same year I had Miss Genius as well. Fantastic WA First Nations artist, solo as well. Now, that may have been the third or fourth year of Barmy Nights. I think third. And so what I'm talking about there is the fact that all those artists were solo. They're all well-established West Australian acts, really bloody good. But I selected solo acts purely for the perspective of to cut down on accommodation costs, to cut down on the cost for them on travel,
Yeah.
to ensure that I could pay them a solid fee. Uh,
Make it worthwhile. Yeah.
so those were those elements. And then I guess as Barmy Nights grew, the branding grew. Something that I feel like I probably do better than anyone that's running events in the state, apart from the big, massively established events, is local sponsorship. And that has been a massive part of my business plan.
Yeah. Wow.
That has come from building positive events, and then finding the local businesses that align with the ethos or align with the audience, and then approaching them for sponsorship. So sponsorship is obviously a paid partnership where, you know, they're getting promotion associated with the event and marketing, and they're getting their brand
Yeah.
presented alongside my brand or the Barmy Nights brand. And so as I built sponsorship for Barmy Nights, then I had more, you know, I was able to offset the risk of the production costs.
Yeah.
And then I was able to approach other, you know, more substantial acts. I think the first bigger act that I had for Barmy Nights was Grace Barbe,
Yeah. Cool.
maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. Probably the most well-established act that I've had headline Barmy Nights thus far. And then another real goal and another thing that I've really pushed for is I do a lot of work in Hopetown and Ravensthorpe as well with their arts organisation, which has increased substantially over the last couple of years. So 3 years ago, we did, for the first time, we did a spin-off event in Hopetown.
Oh.
So we did a live music ticketed show on the Friday in Hopetown, which is branded Barmy Nights. And my 3 headline acts from out of town, where I think I had 1 from Margaret River and 2 from Perth, they came and played in Hopetown on the Friday night.
Right.
They moved forward and played in Esperance on the next night. So you can, I'm sure you can quickly understand what my goal is there. It's about breaking up the travel, making sure those bands have 2 performance opportunities in one weekend where the distance traveled is such a hectic thing. They get to play. The Hopetown show is, I think last year they probably played to about 120 people, so still a good number.
Yeah, solid.
Still a solid number. The gig fee for both is the same because for the Hopetown show, their arts organisation sources the funding for that through grants and stuff, which is fantastic. So the fee is the same or very similar. And the other part of it is that for those bigger events, I make sure that everything is supplied. So they literally jump in the car with their guitars, their bass, and their snare and their cymbals.
Yeah, wow.
All backline is supplied, all production is supplied, accommodation is supplied, food and drinks are supplied. So when I can offer that to established acts, and they've got 2 nights consecutive, and they're just rolling in and playing, and for Barmy Nights, I actually offer people the Sunday nights accommodation as well in Esperance. So people will play on the Friday and the Saturday, and then on the Sunday, they've got the option of staying if they're able to. A lot of people do have to drive back on Sunday because of work Monday or whatever. But I like to give them that option because the distance is hectic. And the other thing, having the 2 shows has allowed me to do as well. Like for the Friday and Saturday, I get production down from Perth. We don't have quite the production that I'd require for Barmy Nights based in Esperance, lighting and sound. And so I'm extremely fortunate in that the production guy that I use for my bigger events is the brother of the guitarist in my band. He's an absolute legend. We're really good friends. He comes down to Esperance quite regularly. So he'll just load everything in his truck, but he'll drive from Perth to Hopetown. He'll do his first show in Hopetown, and then he'll get up the next day and drive to Esperance and do that show.
Crazy.
So it works really well because you're staggering the travel also for him, but you're also making sure that he's getting paid for 2 shows.
Yeah.
And once I've got, so 4 Barmy nights, I have, and There Goes the Sun, which is my other biggest show at the Cannery. I have Chad Cooper on sound and production for both of them. He drives down from Perth, as I said, and does the 2 consecutive. And I pay his brother, Matt Cooper, who is my guitarist, to roadie and sound tech with him, who is an
Cool.
absolute machine. And so between having those 2 guys and an MC on those nights, I'd just walk away from the stage. I find myself up the front having a boogie,
Great.
And that is really, really rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing, I guess, quickly to say about my programming overall is that my goal is certainly to primarily support emerging acts and mid-level acts. I will rarely work with very, very established acts. You kick to a different level of the music industry when you're an act that can roll into a regional centre and sell 300 tickets just on your own name.
Yeah.
I generally don't work with those people because they got their own thing. Like they're where they're at. They don't need my assistance. They don't need my venues. They don't need my production. So my priority for the programmed events that I do is always emerging and mid-level acts.
Yeah.
The fact of the industry, and Grand Casual is one of these acts as well, even though we've ground for so hard, like we're a band that, like, we're never going to be doing this as our full-time work. This is something that we love. When we go and play shows, if we make some money, great. If we break even, we're happy. But if we make some money, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I always try and make sure that acts are making some money. But I just have such a passion for supporting those artists that, they're doing it because they love it. They're never, everyone has these dreams of, oh yeah, I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to tour the world, but that is probably only a factor for 2 to 3% of people that start off in music, right?
Oh, if that, it's a very, very finite elite that get to do that.
We need to be focused on the emerging artist. For me, my focus is on the emerging artist and the mid-level artists, to give them the constant opportunities to perform. I don't, and a lot of the time, as stupid as it sounds, and there are definitely exceptions to this rule, and I'll quickly mention one, but a lot of the higher end acts that have got to that point where they're selling out shows, they're frustrating to deal with because their mindset has changed.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I understand why that happens, but it's like, this is not what I'm grinding away to do what I do. I'm not, I'm financially sustainable, my business is, but I'm not making squillions of money. So it's like, I got to support the people that I feel driven to support, and, which is really rewarding.
Yeah, I think it's so commendable that now that you've built this really established brand, that you talk about these artists that could come in and as you said, are the next level, that your focus and passion is so strong that like you've kind of kept in the space where you want to have that impact on people and help those people. And I think it's so priceless, I guess, how powerful that is to so many people. And you probably don't hear that a lot. Maybe you do, I don't know, but I think there's probably a lot of unspoken gratitude for the workload that you do and the risk that you take on. But what I love the most, and one of the reasons why I wanted to chat to you the most, is I just love people that go and get stuff done. I don't subscribe to the sitting back and waiting and the excuse of like, well, no one's asked me to do this, no one's asked me to do that. And I think what you've built, Grand Casual, what you do at Lucky Bay and what you do with those events, all of them, because you've just driven it, and you've just like, I'm not going to sit around and wait for someone else or complain about a lack of an industry. You've just kind of made it happen. So just finally, like, what's next for you in any of those 3 formats, if you were to summarize what's next for you?
Yeah, for sure. So at the brewery, I am just chipping away, programming. I think I'm programmed out to about the end of October. If anyone's interested, I'm normally programming 2 to 3 months in advance out there.
Nice.
And a lot of that's for my sanity. I like to keep ahead of what I'm doing with the week in, week out bookings, Fridays and Sundays. Currently working on having a First Nations event at the brewery with crew the Desert Stars, who are based in the Central Desert, Jutnjara. coming down to Esperance. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's in 6 weeks' time. So I've just finalised everything for that. It's a free entry show, which is fantastic. Just about to start pushing that hard. Barmy Nights is my other main focus as far as the bigger ticketed shows are going. So I'll launch that within the next week. I actually had one of my headliners pull out like a week ago, which has been really hectic because I had graphics and everything, and my launch date set for September 5th. And now I am pushing to find an act to take that slot. And I've tried about 4 or 5, and because band members are unavailable, like that's the tricky thing, I guess, with Barmy Nights and these shows. Like I book acts months in advance because they've got to work it around their work and stuff like that, you know.
Totally. But also, they got bands at that headline level. They book out as well. Like they
do.
They book their schedules, like literally 3 to 6 months in advance.
100%. So that's a challenge that I'm working through at the moment, but hope to have that sorted today and launch Barmy Nights on the 8th, which involves Ben Catley. If you know Ben Catley, main man, graphic designer, love him to death. Involves him having to redo all the graphics, which is substantial for that event.
Yeah.
Plus another guy, Perth guy, Josh Ludlow, who's a legend, to update some reels and stuff for me as well. Also my website. So that's a bit hectic, but I'm getting there. So that's Barmy Nights. I'll have maybe 2 or 3 other ticketed shows that I'm working on. I'm working on a free entry New Year's event for the Rotary Club in Esperance.
Cool.
And so that's really cool, sort of looking at my lineup for that. And then outside of that, I have Grand Casual is the other main thing. So yeah, we obviously had just got back. We toured up the Northwest in July. We did 6 shows up there. So we've been back. Joe, our drummer, plays football, like local footy. So he just won the grand final last Friday or Saturday. So yeah, he is still a bit hungover. But yeah, we've just been jamming once a week while he's been playing footy because he had trained a couple of nights a week. And so once now footy's finished, we'll get back into jamming a couple of times. I think our plan for summer is to do 2 to 3 local free entry shows, just real casual vibes for us. And we've got a couple of songs that we're going to record. We're also looking at the potential of going over east and playing some shows, but we'd love to build that around East Coast Festival. So we're just looking at the different applications and stuff we could look into and make for that.
Yeah, amazing. Kyza, I could ask you a million more questions. You fascinate me to bits. Best of luck with the brewery, with Barmy Nights and all the ticketed shows, and Grand Casual, man. Thank you so much for your time. What a legend. Thanks, bud.